We worship the monuments of the undefeated. We crave the power of the man who took 60 lives and never blinked. But look closer into the damp shadows of this cave. Here sits the Sword Saint, an old man with hair like tangled roots and skin like gray stone. He is not facing a king or a rival. He is staring at a single dying wildflower. His hands, the same hands that shattered the greatest geniuses of Japan, are now trembling. He could kill a god with a wooden stick, but he cannot keep a single petal from falling. This is the secret shame of the invincible. The moment we realize we can destroy a miracle, but we can never create one. This is MIYAMOTO Musashi, the legendary swordsman of 17th century Japan. To the world, he is the ultimate icon of victory. To others, a ghost who traded his heart for a perfect strike. Why does his name still echo 4 centuries later? Why do we still preserve his journals like holy relics? It is because his life is the dark mirror of the very pressure we feel today. The crushing, silent demand that we must always be the best, or we are nothing. But what happens when his greatest strength becomes the iron cage that kills his soul? He spent his life sharpening himself, only to build a prison of expectations where there is no room to breathe. Join me as I explore the challenging journey and dissect the hollow heart of an invincible legend. Welcome to the Trials of Greatness, and I am Oxley. Let us go back. Year 1590. The air in Mimasaka smells of sun-warmed cedar and wild berries. There is no blood here, only the soft sound of a wooden knife against a piece of pine. 10-year-old Takizo is sitting by the stream, all lost in the grain of the wood. He is not a warrior yet. He is just a child with a small dream of carving a bird that can fly. His fingers are stained with the sweet purple juice of forest fruit, not the copper tang of iron. His world is vibrant, colored by the simple peace of a creation that asks for nothing. This is the innocent spark, the version of ourselves we all abandoned before the machine of the world demanded we become steel. The year 1600. The world is screaming Musashi's name. After the bloodbath of Sekigahara, he is no longer a stray dog. He is the new Sword Saint. Listen to the cheers in the tea houses of Kyoto. Watch the Lord's bow as he passes. He has achieved what every man dreams of. He is invincible. The sun of the new Edo era is shining directly on his blade, turning his blood-stained past into a golden legend. But look closer. The cheers are a lie. The gold is just paint over a cage. Japan is breathing differently now. The era of the wild sword is being strangled by the era of the law. New decrees are being written in cold ink, treating masterless samurai like rabid dogs to be hunted or tamed. The world demands one thing for his survival. He must kneel. He must become a yojimbo, a puppet in a silk robe to keep your stomach full. Musashi stands at the edge of the road, smelling the scent of cedar and knowing that to stay free, he must stay hungry. He must stay a ghost in a world that only wants servants. And then there is Ogin, his sister, the only living soul who still remembers the boy named Takezo. In his mind's eye, he sees her sitting by the dying embers of their childhood hearth, her hair turning white like the winter frost as she waits for a brother who will never return. Musashi's chest is a hollow cave echoing with the ghost smell of fresh rice and the warmth of a home he can no longer touch. He wants to go back, but he knows that the moment he steps through that door, he accepts the era's leash. He would be safe, fed, and forgotten, a tame dog in a silk collar. To keep his spirit free, he must let his sister's heart break. He chooses the freezing mountain air over the comfort of her fire, trading the only love he ever knew for the absolute, terrifying discipline of a ghost. 1,612. 12 years have passed since the blood of Sekigahara. Musashi is no longer a wanderer. He is a name whispered in fear and awe. He has survived 60 duels, but the peak is a lonely place. The world now demands a final proof of his greatness. One name stands in his way: Sasaki Kojiro, the demon of the provinces, a genius whose blade is as long as the night. To become the ultimate sword saint, Musashi must destroy the only mirror of himself left on Earth. He accepts the challenge, knowing that Ganryu Island will be either his throne or his tomb. April 13th, 1612. The sun over Ganryu Island is an unblinking eye. Sasaki Kojiro, the genius of the swallow cut, has been waiting for 3 hours. But Musashi is not rushing. This delay is his first strike, an invisible blade. He knows Kojiro is a perfectionist with a fire of pride. He is dressed in rags, looking more like a beggar than a warrior. By making him wait under the burning sun, Musashi grinds down that patience, turning Kojiro's sharp focus into chaotic rage. He calculates the tide and the sun's angle so it will blind his opponent at the exact moment of the clash. And then, look at his hands. He is calmly carving a piece of wood from a broken oar. Why? Why would the greatest swordsman carve a piece of rotten wood instead of holding his legendary katana? He carves it just a few inches longer than Kojiro's legendary longsword, a gap of life and death that only a master perceives. This is the second strike of the undefeated master, finding the opponent's weakness before the confrontation. He wins the battle before it even begins. He steps onto the sand, a shadow in rags, holding a piece of wood against Kojiro's perfect steel. In one heartbeat, the wood meets the bone. There is no ringing of swords, only a hollow, sickening thud that echoes across the silent beach. Kojiro, the mirror of everything Musashi could have been, the most beautiful soul of his age, falls. His blood stains the tide, a dark flower blooming in the salt water. Musashi stands over the body, the rough grain of the ore biting into his palms, the smell of salt and iron stinging his nose. The duel is over. He has won, but as the spray hits his face, it doesn't taste like triumph. The silence is absolute. Musashi looks at the broken masterpiece at his feet and realizes he has spent 30 years sharpening a weapon that only knows how to destroy. By killing Kojiro, he has murdered the only other person on Earth who truly understood him. His ego, once a roaring fire of pride, suddenly explodes into a cold, black emptiness. He is at the top of a mountain of corpses and the air is too thin to breathe. He spent his life becoming the invincible sword saint, only to realize he had built his own iron cage. He is the greatest on Earth, and he is utterly, terrifyingly alone. For years after the island, Musashi tries to hide from the ghost of his own blade. He picks up the brush to paint Zen birds. He pours tea with the precision of a master, hoping the fragrance of sandalwood and the soft texture of silk can wash the copper taste of blood from his soul. He craves beauty to be his sanctuary. He wants to believe that art can rewrite a life built on the edge of a sword. But every time he looks at the ink, he sees the dark flowers of Ganryu blooming on the paper. Beauty is not a shield. It is a mirror that only reflects his solitude. 1643. The world is a distant echo outside the Regondo cave. Inside, there is only the sound of a body breaking. Listen to the dry crack of his joints as he tries to kneel, bone against stone, a reminder that the invincible saint is made of rotting flesh. Watch his hands. The fingers that once gripped a wooden oar with the strength of a storm are now trembling so violently he cannot even tie the simple silk cord of his belt. Each failed movement is a tiny humiliation. He is no longer a legend. He is a man trapped in a decaying cage, breathing the damp, moldy air of his own end. The discipline that once gave him power is now a cruel whip, forcing him to witness his own helplessness in the dark. In the corner, his old sword leans against the wall, a chain of steel that has imprisoned him for 60 years. He looks at it with vacant, tired eyes. History is waiting for him to die as the Sword Saint, a perfect, bloodless icon of pride. But the man in the dark knows the truth. He stands at the crossroads of an impossible choice: to die within the lie of his greatness, or to strip himself bare and admit he was a failure at being human. To write the Book of 5 Rings is to kill the myth of Musashi. He kneels, breath catching in his throat, choosing the pain of honesty over the comfort of a legend. He chooses to let the world see the broken man, so the truth can finally live. The world is preparing to carve his name into stone as the Sword Saint, a god of steel and blood. But as the shadows grow, the cost of that immortality becomes visible. There is no family here, no soft hand of a wife to touch his brow, no cry of a child to break the silence. He has won his place in history, but he has lost the only thing that truly matters: the simple, warm weight of a family meal. He is a king of ruins. Suddenly, a young disciple kneels in the entrance, his eyes burning with the same hungry fire Musashi once carried. "Master," he whispers, "teach me the final strike. Make me invincible." Musashi does not look at the cold steel of his blade. He looks at the boy and sees his own ghost from 30 years ago on Ganryu Island. With a hand that can no longer hold a sword, he reaches down and picks up a single, withered wildflower from the dirt. He places it in the boy's trembling palm. He refuses to draw the steel, not because he is weak, but because he has reached the ultimate discipline, the strength to give up the need to win. The boy leaves in a stunned silence, and Musashi turns to his brush. He does not write of killing, he writes of harmony. He writes that there is no enemy outside of yourself. Look at the truth of his life. 60 battles, 60 victories, and not a single home. As we spend our lives disciplining ourselves for peaks, money, status, power, but Musashi's end asks us a different question. Are we training to win a world that doesn't care, or are we training to keep our humanity in the dark? Because the greatest defiance is letting go of the intent to must win to find harmony. He surrendered his sword to find his soul. We will keep this light alive so it never fades. We will see you in the next journey.